Welcome to another 5-Minute Flip.
What is up, Flip Eponymai? Welcome to your 5-Minute Flip for September 18th, 2025. I know it's been a minute since I've been on here with a 5-minute flip for you. We are getting closer to making this higher at my church. Thank you so much for those that have been praying for me and regarding that. And appreciate your ongoing support. I appreciate you still listening to the podcast as we're in this sort of hybrid sabbatical phase, sabbatical from the long-form episodes and kind of getting on the 5-minute flips when I'm able to. Just finished, and I do want to give a shout-out to Angry Brew, 5 Lakes. Since I'm not, I'm sabbaticaling from the long-form episodes right now, I want to make sure I give them a shout-out here on the flip. Go to 5lakes.com, use promo code FLIP to get 10% off your order. And yeah, we just finished up a Beyond the Battle retreat, September 12th through 14. It was just fantastic. We were, there was 15 of us, and we were at a lake house right on the beach in South Haven, Michigan, on Lake Michigan. Just a gorgeous weekend, and to be with God in his beauty was incredible. It was absolutely fantastic. And it ties in with what I've been wanting to talk about on a 5-minute flip. And that is just the gratuitous nature of God's beauty that he displays in nature. And, my last 5-minute flip was a little darker, life can be dark. And I was talking about why do bad things happen, and my friend Brian passed away. And just as I get older, I'm 42, I have more friends and acquaintances die and family members who die, and it's a paradigm shift, and I think everybody experiences that as some earlier than their 40s, some of you listening. But, as you get into your 40s and 50s, it's just kind of naturally that starts happening more and more. And let alone, as I've shared many times on the podcast, some of just my heart for the world and the brokenness of the world. And as a pastor, I certainly see a lot of the brokenness in people's lives. In my own life, the macro level issues of poverty and the trauma and dysfunction that comes with that, just we could go on. And I talked about that in the last episode, but I was sitting at the river a few weeks ago, and, I still do my Mondays at the river, and I was walking around a little bit along the river bank, and there was this brilliant red wildflower. It was bright cherry red, like something you never should see in nature. It was neon red. I guess it looked like the color of some flowers I've seen planted, but this was a wildflower. And I always am struck by wildflowers. I should say in the last few years, I've become more and more struck by the beauty of wildflowers. They are these randomly placed, how much different are they than weeds? They're just these random plants that grow completely on their own, often along the side of the road. You'll see yellow wildflowers, purple wildflowers, the sides of the edge of forest, just in very random places. And there's no reason for them to be there. There's no practical purpose. They just are gratuitous displays of God's beauty. And this bright red wildflower caught my eye, sort of like I talked about in the spring, those bright pink trees. I forget the name of them. I looked it up, but just what are these bright pink trees doing? They flower, sort of pink for a very long time, as in the springtime. Before, as the trees are turning green from the winter, you have these bright pinkish purple trees, and they're gorgeous. And you just think, God, why not just be plain and sort of make all trees green? But here's a bright pink colored tree. And even with wildflowers, we get so spoiled. I'm spoiled on the yellows and the whites and the purples, and then boom, this bright red, like electronic looking red colored wildflower standing there just along the riverbank, kind of with these trees. And it just struck me on how random and wild and extra gratuitous God's sense of beauty is in the world. And when I was sitting on the beach at Lake Michigan, we do an hour of solitude time on our Beyond the Battle retreats on Saturday mornings. And I was sitting on the beach, and where we were at in South Haven, most of Lake Michigan's beaches around me are very sandy. That's why they're very popular and kind of well known for that. And the beach we were at was kind of rocky, and at first was kind of disappointed in that. But I noticed there would be people walking around looking down at the rocks. And so I was sitting there still for an hour, just right along where the waves were coming, and there was nobody else around. This was on Saturday morning. And I look down, and I am struck by the diversity of rocks that are on this beach. It was gorgeous. Very similar to if you're in Florida and people walk the beach and pick up shells, which in and of itself is amazing, of God's gratuitous display of beauty in these shells that are just infinite in diversity and how many of them there are. And that what animals lived in them, right? It was like, but anyway, these rocks, I'm sitting there and I'm seeing just so many different shapes and colors and patterns and fossils literally right at my feet. And I began picking up rocks that identified with each of my family members and to give them as a souvenir, as a gift, and why it reminded me of them. And some of them were shiny and sparkly like diamonds and had pink in them. And I picked up one that I'm keeping for myself, and it was pink and white and a darkish kind of color through it, and bright colored when it was wet, and it just looked like this amazing piece of beauty. The pink stood out to me. Like, why are there pink rocks, right? And I think if we don't stop in the middle of the world we live in, which, like I said last episode, a lot of bad things happen, and we can be filled with despair, and there's legitimate questions about why do these bad things happen. But I think it's just as important that we notice these gratuitous displays of beauty in the world, and they're symbolic to me. I'm a huge Lord of the Rings fan of the trilogy, of the books and the movies. Just by far my favorite stories ever written. I'm rereading the books for the umpteenth time right now, and then I watch the movies. Like, after I finish a book, I'll watch the movie, and I love. There's a line, and I don't remember where, and I'm paraphrasing, but there's the line that I think Sam says to Frodo at some point, and he says, it's a reminder that there's still good in the world. And they often think back to the Shire. The Shire is this very simple place where the hobbits are from, very kind of far away from all the darkness and evil going on in the world. Very simple people, farming, gardening, and there's lots of green and lots of flowers and lots of vegetables that they're growing. And it's Tolkien is very intentional throughout the book of these reflections on the Shire. The hobbits or the Fellowship will be in a very, very dark place, and there will be reflections back to the Shire. And it's this remembrance that there's still good in the world. And our world is very broken. It is broken by sin, and if evil has some sort of reign on this world. I don't understand. It's way above my pay grade how that works between God and Satan. But we live in a broken world that's broken by sin. And Satan and his demons are at work. And Jesus has authority over them. But we see the destruction, right? We see it all around us. And to remember that there's still good in the world. To remember that God created the world good, and that he is good. And things like wildflowers and rocks on the beach that are all kinds of wild colors and shapes and fossils, and just they're reminders to me that there's still good in the world. And I hope some of you just needed to hear that today. In the midst of your own brokenness, in the midst of my own brokenness, in the midst of the brokenness of the world. And my encouragement to you would be to slow down. Again, both of these experiences with the wildflowers and the rocks was me sitting at the river by myself for multiple hours still, and then walking along the shore of the river by myself in stillness and seeing the wildflowers. The other was sitting at the beach by myself for an hour with nothing, just in stillness. And you notice the gratuitous beauty of God. So take this as an invitation to sit with God somewhere that's beautiful. And it could be somewhere simple, and just notice the gratuitous beauty of God that he shows you. Keep your eyes open while you're driving. You will see the yellow and purple wildflowers everywhere. Last little thing that I love, purple reminds me of the royalty of Jesus. And I heard a devotional recently around Easter on the resurrection of Jesus, and if we live like Jesus actually resurrected, how different of people we would be. We would be filled with joy and hope and anticipation of. And I began that day. We were at a camp, and it was a denominational event we were having with the ECC, and I began seeing these purple wildflowers everywhere and equating them with the royalty of Jesus, as if these wildflowers were Jesus' presence themselves, Jesus saying, Noah, I'm resurrected. You are living in my resurrected reality. These purple wildflowers randomly everywhere, they were just in the lawn. Like they're going to get ran over by the lawnmower, but you have to stop and slow down enough to see them, and as a reminder of Jesus' resurrected reality. So take those, open your eyes, slow down, and be encouraged. Be encouraged by the good that is in the world, the good world that God created, and that Jesus is resurrected. And he's not done with me, he's not done with you, and he's not done with this world. And man, let's worship him throughout the good and the bad, as he's bigger than all of it, and he's our King of Kings and Lord of Lords. So be encouraged and be on the lookout for wildflowers. I will see you next time on the flip side.
Thanks for listening to this 5-minute flip. Subscribe for more flips and long-form episodes of The Flip Side. Visit www.patreon.com/NoahFilippiak to support and get sweet Flipside swag.